to the OhioRAAM Show.
Well, hello, it's Lee Kreider, the OhioRAAM Show number 362, a show about UltraCycling and all things RAM. We're here again with a great guest from United Kingdom, although at the moment he happens to be in Portugal. That's the nice thing about the internet. You never know where anybody is, and you can find him almost anywhere. Jim will be with us here. He's on the road somewhere. Jim, let me get you in here. Where are you at?
I'm actually a little bit south of Findlay. We're up here covering Joe Lawhorn's East Ohio crossing attempt today, and he is doing awesome so far. It's been a great morning for him.
And I need to say that the show comes to you from the good people who run the time stations here in Ohio, 41 in Oxford, 42 in Blanchester, and 43 in Chillicothe, where Jim's at. Yeah, good old Chillicothe. Jim's there. And so, Jim, you've been busy today trying to track down Joe.
Yep.
Tell us how he's doing, and then give us the news.
All right. He is doing great. He started about 8:17 this morning on the far east side of Ohio, and he is now about 150 miles in. He's averaging right about 20 miles an hour right now, which is awesome. I think that's about what he planned on doing. I'm going to catch up to him here as soon as this show's over, up outside of Findlay, Ohio, and we'll get some stuff recorded and maybe do a little live spot depending on the signal. So we're hoping to get him here shortly. And now for the news. Again, Joe Lawhorn doing the northeast-west East Ohio crossing. And his driver is Doug Chivington from Team Chivington, and they're still working on a traumatic brain injury drive where they will give a helmet for everything you donate to the Chillicothe VA this month. So it's a great cause, great thing to do. So if you can, hit them up and give them a donation. The other thing that's going on big this weekend is the Longhorn 500. For our people at RAM headquarters. This is their first event really since COVID hit, and hope all the racers and crews and everybody there stays safe and has a great ride this weekend.
Okay, and our Ohioan by adoption, Giovanni Prosperi, is going to do a report on the Longhorn 500 a day this week coming up. Just watch for that. It'll be coming up, one of those short 5-minute reports that people like so well. And the other is the 200-mile race, but I forget what they call that, Jim.
I also do, and being remote, I don't have all my notes in front of me. That's one thing I got to work on here for the next remote that we do.
Yeah, okay. Very good. And also, as far as Doug Chivington's program to purchase helmets for veterans that have been injured and recovery so that they can get on bikes and get the advantage of that. On the show notes, OhioRAAMShow.com website, I should get that put up here. I will in a minute. Okay. Jim's difficult for him to help me, but there he is, OhioRAAMShow.com. For $20, you provide a helmet into $20, Jim, I think.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
And you can go to the show notes there, OhioRAAMShow.com. You'll see a link to that. I've given them my donation, and I hope you will too, and others will as well. And also, for those of you who are watching, and I see we got some people out there. Be sure to give us your comments, either on YouTube or Facebook, whichever platform you're on. Mm-hmm. Give us a comment for our guest here or for us. Tell us how wonderful we are. We like that. And we'll be glad to post it here for everyone to see. Hey,
And
Jim.
just let us know you're out there too. That it would be nice to see a post from you saying, "Hey, we're out here."
Okay, good. So with that, let's go to Portugal instead of the United Kingdom, and bring in James Golding. James, how are you today?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you very much.
You're actually from Rugby.
Yes.
My first question is, James, is that where the game was invented? Is that how it got its name?
Yeah. So, yes, that was the pitch that rugby was first ever played on was literally just around the corner from my house. So it's the home of Rugby School, which is one of the best schools in England, and it is where the game was invented.
Okay, very good. And speaking of brain injuries, are there a lot of brain injuries in rugby? I don't know.
It's something that they're far more aware of now. It's something that's been coming to light, so to speak, a lot more. But I used to play as a youngster, but haven't played since I turned to two wheels.
There you go.
Well, on the show,
I'm not sure two wheels is safer.
Let's get off of rugby and get on to cycling. James, tell us about yourself. And there's some videos on the show notes about you that you have done. The man who refused to die twice, is that the way you mentioned that? Tell us about how that all means.
Yeah, well, so the Man Who Refused to Die is the name of a film that Red Bull made about me in 2019. It was they have a Red Bull Media have a series show called Way of the Wild Card, which is it's basically about what they would describe as ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and we got involved in the second series. And they actually came and filmed when I did Race Across the West in 2019. And that was the foundation for the film. So it was a bit about my story beforehand, before I got into cycling the way that I do now. And then it was a bit about Race Across the West and kind of what our goals are. The Man That Refuses to Die thing came from the fact that I've had cancer twice. First time I had cancer, I had less than 5% chance of survival. Second time I had cancer wasn't anywhere near as bad because we caught it a lot sooner. But in between those two cancer diagnoses, I was hit by a truck just outside New Orleans on US 90 back in 2010. So it put me 70 miles an hour from behind and put me 120 feet down the road and broke 3 of my ribs, smashed up all my elbow and took all the skin off my legs. So 3 days in hospital down there and then flew back to the UK. So that's kind of where the idea of the Man Who Refuses to Die comes from.
Okay, very good. Jim, got a question?
Awesome. There's a back. How did you get involved with bicycling and cycling and UltraCycling?
So I used to ride as a kid a lot. I bought my first mountain bike at the time, which was a Kona Fire Mountain when I was 11 years old, which was 1990. I saved and I washed cars, mowed lawns, saved everything I could for a long period of time to be able to buy this bike, and it was something that I really enjoyed doing. But then I came away from riding due to work and other commitments and other things that were going on in my life. But then when I was diagnosed, coming out of the other side of that diagnosis and the time in hospital, cycling became a recovery. It became a release. It became an exercise that I was able to do. I had to relearn how to walk, so I lost the ability to walk through my first bout of cancer. And I picked a bike up that was in the corner of my house, and I drove to the local reservoir, and I rode 5 miles around the local reservoir, and it ruined me. But I hadn't felt that free in such a long period of time. And then through a number of months, there was then a transition to me wanting to be able to raise money for Macmillan Cancer Support, which were the charity that had looked after me whilst I'd been ill, and had looked after a number of my interests and my family and that kind of stuff. So I wanted to do something to give back to them. And that was where this idea of riding from LA to Miami came from. I would then celebrate my birthday is the 4th of July. So I realise now that the fireworks every year aren't for my birthday. They're because but I spent my 30th birthday in Austin, Texas. And then so it was about raising money and giving back to people that had been there for me. And then I wanted to raise more money, so the ride needed to get a bit bigger. And all of a sudden something clicked that actually I still felt really good after, at the time, I still felt really good after sort of 140, 150 miles. And, a big day was, I was looking at numbers and going, yeah, that's fine, I can do that. And we did a bit more. And obviously I got hit by a truck. But when I went back to America in January 2011, I actually rode from LA to Miami in 24 days, which was 10 days quicker than originally planned, because I just started to get into this rhythm once I'd go past sort of 5 or 6 hours, which to anybody that's not into kind of big mileage, you kind of say, oh, well, I come to life after 6 hours. They kind of look at you a little bit strange, but these miles just got bigger and I enjoyed it. So I wanted to raise more money, so the miles got bigger, and I wanted to raise more money, so the miles got bigger. And then I got this attraction to race across America. And, I suppose borderline bankruptcy, near on divorce, everything else. We're now kind of getting ready for when that opportunity arises for us to be able to do race across America.
Outstanding.
Hey, let me jump in here. I know there's people out there, so let's give us some comments and questions. You can do it either on Facebook or YouTube, and we can see it here. Once in a while, they mess up and we don't get to see it, but let's hear from you. Friends, whoever you are, just say hi. We're here.
Hey, Gregory, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm always glad to see Gregory. He's the person who says hello and goodbye at the beginning and end of the show. Well, you say you've raised quite a bit of money, haven't you, James, over the years?
Yeah, we've raised well over 3 million now, UK pounds. So that's what's that at the minute. That's somewhere in the region of sort of $4 million, isn't it? I mean, that was what it was all. It was, for me, this whole thing was about, it was about raising money. It was about giving back. It was about saying thank you to the people that had been there for me. And then that kind of changed slightly to being able to create change in other people's lives. And it's still very much that now, what I do off the bike is still very much about inspiring young people, working with companies to help their staff and employees, and generally everybody that I can connect with to understand what they can really truly achieve in their lives. I think we all underestimate what we're actually capable of achieving. We kind of forget the path that we've already been down to get to where we are now. And in some respects, I've been fortunate, and I do say in a number of it's documented quite highly that I have said previously that cancer was in hindsight the best thing that kind of ever happened to me, and I think in some respects that is very true, and that's because of what it taught me, because of what it enabled me to understand that what we're able to achieve. I looked at life in a very, very different way prior to cancer, and as I said in the Red Bull video, I don't think if I met that person now, I don't think I'd like them. And cancer completely changed everything that I do. I wouldn't be doing the rides that I do. I wouldn't be raising the money that I do. I wouldn't be trying to create change in other people's lives. My life would be a very monetary driven and kind of object driven life. I still like nice things. I still enjoy spending money on certain things, but I appreciate what they are now, and that is that they're things. That time that I get on my bike now is the most important, and what I can do on that is, I never intended to be looking. I like the idea of Race Across America. I loved racing. I just had this. There was something that just, you guys are very very much in it, in living and breathing it. But coming from the other side of the pond, so to speak, we don't have anything that is like Race Across America. We don't have the land scale that you guys have got. So, if you take, for example, people talk about the John O'Groats to Land's End, which is basically the most southern point of the United Kingdom to the most northern point of the United Kingdom. Mm-hmm. And even if you take the long route, it's still only 1,000 miles. You can do that ride in, I think the record for that ride is just under 2 days. So, we don't have that land density. So when you talk about Race Across America, to anybody to anybody on that side of the pond, it's an anomaly. It's something that's really quite special to be able to see that. So the idea of now being somebody that's talking about going and doing Race Across America, and and what I personally would like to achieve out of Race Across America, and that's not something that I sat there 10 years ago and went, this is what I'm going to go and do. As I say, it was about creating change in other people's lives, and it turned out that I was pretty good at riding a bike for stupidly long distances, And even when I talk to you guys, I feel a little bit, when, people that are listening to this, I feel a little bit kind of, I suppose a little bit fraudulent, because, I don't do as big a stuff as I would like to do. But the miles that we talk about on here is nothing unusual to this audience, Whereas I turn around to the guys back at the local cycling club, and they're like, "Oh, what did you do yesterday?" I'm like, "Oh, I did 215 miles yesterday," and they're like, "Kind of, sorry."
Yeah, we don't realize that sometimes, and sometimes you mention it, and people think, well, you're not telling the truth. That you can't do that. But it gets to be kind of commonplace for us, and we shouldn't allow that to happen.
People in England, there's a very popular ride is to ride from London to Paris in France, and normally that ride would take somewhere between 3 and 5 days. And that would be some people's big goal. That would be what they would really strive towards to do. And I a few years ago, I rode it over the 3 days, and then I rode home on the Sunday, and people are kind of like, "You're doing what?" I'm like, "Well, I'm riding home." "What, from Paris?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm riding. There's no train tickets, so I'm gonna ride home." And they're like, "But you've just ridden from London." I'm like, "Well, yeah, and that's so it's something that is, I go out and I say to people, I'm doing a training ride today, I'm going to do 6 hours, and they think you're crazy, but that's a small ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, again, we want to invite people to make their comments. Hi, Katie Ford. Glad to see you here. Hi, Soren Rosenkilde in Denmark. We're glad to see you here. Katie's up in Scotland. Of course, as I said, on the internet, you never know where people are, but she's often there. And I know there's some others out there, so be sure and let us know by making comments there, and we'll be sure to get it up. You mentioned your charities, and for Race Across America 2021, you decided to roll it over onto 2022, I guess because of the uncertainty about 2021. but you have this Buffalo Foundation. Tell us what that is and what it's doing.
Yeah, so I'm a trustee of the Buffalo Foundation. It was founded by two good friends of mine, two guys who have become good friends of mine. They initially were a guy, Yanni, who I rode with in France a couple of times on an event, and became to get to know Yanni a bit, rode with him a little bit, and then he wanted to help support what I was doing. So we started chatting, and then that was when I became more aware of the Buffalo Foundation. And then a couple of years ago, I turned around to Yanni and said, can I become a trustee of the Buffalo Foundation? So obviously I've done a huge amount of fundraising for cancer charities. I've also worked with youth charities in the past. And now the Buffalo Foundation currently concentrates its efforts down in South Africa in some of the townships in and around kind of Cape Town. And it's about giving young people an opportunity to develop extra education, but also give them some guidance and support that they need to develop themselves, become entrepreneurial. But also we engage with them through mountain biking predominantly as well. Now we plan on bringing those programs to the United Kingdom over the course of the next sort of 6 to 12 months. And I have a cat that wants to let out the door.
Hey,
sorry.
That's great. We love animals on this show.
It'll be very noisy if I don't let him out. So we're bringing those programs to the United Kingdom, and I resonate a lot with these kids because I left school at 14 and was told I'd never achieve anything, that I was a waste of space and that it was pointless me being there. And I'm not an Elon Musk, I'm not a Bill Gates, but at the end of the day, I've done all right. People used to knock our front door when I was 22 and ask if my mum and dad were in. I had new cars, I had nice things. As I say, they're things. I was running my own business by the time I was 21. I invested quite a lot in property prior to being ill. And now with the help of family and friends, we're down in Portugal, and I'm hoping to create change in other people's lives. So by doing Race Across America and some other bits that we'd like to do in the meantime, and working with some of the partners that I now have on board, we can set up academies all across the United Kingdom to support young people. I go into schools and do speaking engagements where I talk to a room full of 300 kids around kind of 13, 14 years old. And I say to them, who's got a dream? Who's got a goal? Who's got something that they want to achieve in life? I don't need to know what that is, but who's got that? And they look at me and shake their heads, and you kind of go, sorry? And like, no, nothing. You don't have a dream. Who has a dream? And none of them say anything. And you kind of, that worries me. We should be encouraging our kids to dream. We should be encouraging them to believe that they can achieve anything that they want, and that they can break this mold that they've been put into. That's what you're going to do. That's what you should do. No, break free, break the chains, and go and live your life and explore and find out who you are. And if you love doing something, do it, because eventually it will earn you money. And if there's something you want to do, find a way of making that happen, because if that's truly ingrained in you, then go and do it. And that's what we do at the Buffalo Foundation.
Awesome. Lee, are you muted?
Oh yeah, I had my dog barking button on here.
There you go.
Again, on the show notes, OhioRAAMShow.com, you'll see a link to the Buffalo Foundation. You can learn some more there about it, and sounds like a great piece of work you're doing there. And we want to say hello to some people who checked in. Matt Geis is here. We mentioned that next week, Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, he will be our guest here. Another Ohio from over there in Kent. We'll be glad to have him on. And Jenny Rosenkeld, Mrs. Skydog, is here too. Richard Paulson, glad to have you here. as well. And I think there's others out there that are just shy, Jim.
I understand that comment.
Like used to be, it doesn't hurt to make a comment, and we're glad to hear it. It makes James feel good because he knows people are supporting him out there.
You're seeing a lot of good support here today too.
Have you got any other questions, Jim, you want to ask?
Have you got anything big planned until RAM comes around again or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were aiming for RAM last year, and obviously it cancelled, so we moved it to this year. And as you rightly say, you know, the uncertainty of travel and everything else that's going on, particularly you know, bringing kind of 9 people over to the States and that having a potential impact on kind of 40 people one way or another if something happens, we decided to roll to 2022. So I'd like to kind of I want to do a big week in June. And I think probably somewhere around the region of sort of 3,700 to 4,000 kilometers in a week would be a nice big training week to see me through the summer and over into kind of the winter miles, where we then take a nice step to building for RAM next year. I would have quite liked to have a go at Race Around Ireland, but that's now been cancelled for this year as well. But I think Race Across France is still on, so that might be an option. But there's a lot of stuff still cancelling over in Europe at the moment, so it may just be, as I say, kind of setting off early one Monday morning and seeing what we can put in the bank within that 7 days.
That is awesome.
Yeah, well, that's so good. And like I said, you can learn more about James and also about his charity by going to OhioRAAMShow.com website.
You want to get Gregory's question here real quick before we sign off for the evening?
Yeah, just Gregory's just come up with the question.
Can you read it? Maybe it's too small.
Could you please explain how did you go into a kind of meditative state of mind? Did it help with your recovery from both cancers and being hit by a truck? Yeah, I mean, riding is my medication. It is something that I have to do some way, shape, or form or another on a daily basis. I can sometimes go the odd couple of days, but I soon get sent by my wife out on my bike after a few days of not riding a bike. So how do I get into a meditative state? I think I just what I find happens is and this is something why I have so much respect and time for my crew and why they're so important in what I do. They're a group of guys who I've worked with in different ways. So whether it's through my bike fit or whether it's through massages or whether it's through coaching or nutrition, those are the guys that come together and help with these big training sessions. And what I generally do is I go probably too hard for the first kind of day. And then what happens is I kind of drop right off, but then I then kind of come back up to a certain level. And when I get to that rhythm, everything just becomes not fast moving, but not slow. Not everything doesn't become a blur, but it becomes very, very easy to deal with it and to manage everything. I also find that if I ride every morning, my day generally goes a lot better because I feel in a slightly more, probably sober is a good word, state of mind to be able to just process everything that then comes forward. So I think I have to get myself to a point of being quite tired, but then I can manage that very, very well. I am quite lucky that when I was ill, we found out certain things about my metabolic rate and everything else, that I can go long periods of time without huge amounts of food. I've got quite a low heart rate, which is obviously very important for this kind of stuff. So that's also a big help. You know, on Race Across the West on the last day, I think in the last 18 hours, I did 329 miles, and my average heart rate was 106. so that's really quite a benefit to me. I think you've got to, this whole kind of, if you don't enjoy it, then you shouldn't really be doing it. And if you enjoy it, you can find yourself being in a very relaxed state at whatever level it's at, and some people are meant to ride really fast and be really relaxed, and some people are meant to ride really, really easy. Very quickly, a little story of we did a corporate ride with some clients of mine 12, 18 months ago. And we stopped at this hotel, and I was talking to one of the guys in reception, telling him what I'd been doing and what I did. And he said, "Oh, I'm just a pootler. I just get on my bike and I just go out for a bike ride. I'd love to be able to do what you do." And I looked at him and I went, "I'd love to be able to do what you do, because I'd love to be able to just go for a bike ride. I can't just go for a bike ride. I have to go for a ride."
Yeah, I understand that completely. And that mental state of mind is different for different people, but you don't have to go 200 miles for it to happen.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
No,
Hey,
you don't at all.
we got to get Jim off of here because Joe is closing in on him pretty fast here. I've been watching him over here on the other screen.
Yeah,
And
keep an eye out too.
we got to get Jim freed up and James freed up as well. Thank you, James, for being with us here. We appreciate that a great deal. We'll be looking forward to you here in 2022. And we've got 3 great time stations here in Ohio that our staff will be trying to cheer you on and give you that boost for that last 500-600 miles that's ahead of you. And that said, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for your comments. We appreciate those a great deal. They were good tonight. And we'll see James here in another year. Sorry we can't miss you this year. Jim, we'll see you next week, if not before.
Definitely.
And with that, I think we're going to scoot on out of here, if I can find the scoot on out of our button here. Bye-bye, James. Bye-bye, Jim. Hey,
Take
James,
care.
don't go anywhere after we go off the air, okay? Just hang on there for a minute.
Great.
This is Gregory Zuber, thanking you for watching and sharing.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.